Patrick Henningsen talks on today's News Talk Radio, TNT.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to TNT, today's News Talk. I'm Patrick Henningsen, your host. Thank you for rejoining us. We're in the second hour, this live broadcast. We're going to run through to the top of the hour, right to the end of the show. Very pleased to be joined on the line right now by a very special guest. He's an activist in Palestine, in the occupied territories. He's joining us live right now on the line. Issa Amro, thank you for joining us on TNT this week.
Thank you for inviting me to speak to your audience.
No, we really appreciate it, Issa, and considering the conditions right now, I know things are very, very difficult. The conditions right now in the West Bank as well, of course, in Gaza. But thank you for coming. And Issa, I'll give you the floor. Just if you can just introduce yourself and just to explain to our audience what is happening right now in Palestine and how people are feeling right now, especially over the last 100 days. But go ahead, Issa.
Yes, thank you very much. The situation since 100 days in Palestine is really crazy. Israeli soldiers and Israeli settlers in the West Bank are making the life of the Palestinians horrible. So there is a kind of unannounced war, unannounced displacement policy for the Palestinians in the West Bank. We all know what's going on Gaza. I can even update. But what's going on in the West Bank, that the Israeli military set up checkpoints. So all the cities, the Palestinian communities, towns, villages are disconnected from each other. There is no continuity. Checkpoints everywhere. They close the roads. They close the streets. And Israeli military arrested more than 5,000 Palestinians since October 7th. 2,000 of them are in administrative detention. It means in jail without a trial. A few of them are journalists, activists, community leaders, people writing on solidarity with Gaza on Facebook. So there is a huge amount of arrest. At the same time, during the arrest, during any kind of detention, Israeli soldiers beat up Palestinians, torture Palestinians. Me, personally, I was tortured and beaten on October 7th for doing nothing because I'm an activist and a human rights defender. On the other hand, city raid. The Israeli army is raiding the Palestinian cities, the Palestinian villages, the Palestinian refugee camps all over West Bank, and they kill without any kind of accountability and without any kind of the normal army instructions. The Israeli army in the West Bank is acting as militia. Today in Dura, a city next to where I live, and it's part of Hebron region, they killed 2 Palestinians. They shot them, 1 woman and 1 teenager, without being active in anything. They just shoot live ammunition toward the houses, to the streets, to people walking. And we saw many videos of elders being killed, kids being killed. Today, a woman, a university student, she was killed for, she was in her house even. And on the other hand, Israeli settler violence. In Area C, the Israeli settlers are attacking Palestinian farmers, attacking Palestinian properties. The settlers joined the army and they have weapons. Israeli National Security Minister, his name is Tamar Ben-Gvir, he's one of the most fanatic, extreme settlers in the West Bank. He's from Hebron, announced proudly that he distributed 50,000 rifles to the Israelis, and mainly it's his followers. So he's creating another kind of militia against unarmed Palestinians living in the West Bank. Since October 7th, the majority of Palestinians in the West Bank didn't go to work inside Israel or even in the West Bank. no universities, no schools almost. So we don't live a normal life. I'm talking about the West Bank. The economy is affected. The Palestinian Authority is not able to pay the salaries for its employee because the Israeli finance minister, who's a settler too, is refusing to give the Palestinian Authority the tax money, which Israel collect from the export and the import of Palestinian goods. And that's the situation in the West Bank. In Gaza, you know what's going on. We are talking about 24,000 Palestinians being killed. The majority of them are children and women, unfortunately. And Israel is even now refusing any kind of international pressure to cease fire or to sit on the table to negotiate about a peaceful resolution to end the war and have a better future for all.
And would you say, Issa, I mean, I know in the past, before October 7th, that the Israeli military forces would somehow restrain the armed settlers a little bit, at least to prevent them from hunting down or attacking unarmed Palestinian civilians in the West Bank, for instance. These aggressive settlers who are armed and Palestinians are unarmed, the Palestinian civilians, the Israeli army would at least at some point prevent them from, having carte blanche, as they say in France, to go and attack Palestinians. But after October 7th, have you seen the Israeli military stop doing this? In other words, they're letting the armed settlers to attack Palestinians more freely. Do you think this is that what's happened since October 7th?
What is happening in the West Bank, that armed settlers in an army uniform or without army uniform with soldiers, they attack Palestinians. So they attack together and they escort them and they don't prevent the settlers from attacking. In the past, it was so and so. Sometimes they prevent, sometimes they don't. Now we suffer from the soldiers and the settlers who even joined the army. Settlers, they are in an army uniform, and sometimes they are part of the army, and sometimes they are not part of the army. By themselves, they just wear their army uniform and they go to the field and attack Palestinians, kill Palestinians, vandalize Palestinian land, dismiss Palestinians from their land. This is the situation. I'm talking about. There is a militia in the occupied territories who are, army and settlers. Today in Dura, next to Hebron, 2 Palestinians were killed. Soldiers were acting as militia, not as a normal soldiers, not as the Israeli army old instructions to shoot. They shoot live ammunition toward everybody. They shoot people who are not involved of any kind of violence. They don't allow ambulances. They shoot toward journalists. They sprayed Star of David on Palestinian homes after they raided. This is an army. This is the army behavior. I'm not talking about settlers.
Right. So it's just they've removed any sort of restraint, any sort of code of conduct or anything like this. It's just a free for all. This is very much the reports we've seen from other parts of the West Bank as well, Issa, and the town of Hebron as well. It's particularly extreme over the years. And just tell us how things have developed there over the years, how it's gotten worse. The scenes we've seen from there have been incredible. The settlers taking homes of Palestinians, literally marching in and kicking people out of their homes, stealing their homes, their property. Is this something that has increased over the years? Explain to us how things have changed recently.
The Israeli settlers are, living in Hebron city, inside the city. It's the second city after Jerusalem, where Israeli settlers are living inside the city among Palestinians. So because of the presence of a few hundred Israeli settlers, the Israeli army closed more than 1,000 Palestinian houses, 1,800 shops, 22 checkpoints, 100 movement barriers in the city center of Hebron. We have a street called Shuhada Street. It's the main street. It's as Oxford Street in London. It was very famous, crowded of customers after the Ibrahimi Mosque massacre, which was, done by Baruch Goldstein, who's a follower of Meir Kahane movement. Now, this movement is part of the Israeli government. Itamar Ben-Gvir was part of this movement, was part of Baruch Goldstein, ideology. And now they are government. They are mainstream. This is the main issue. This is the main issue, that the criminals and the terrorists who killed 29 Palestinians and injured hundreds, and everybody in the world outlawed them and denounced them. They are part of the Israeli government. This is why we see this kind of massacres in Gaza, because the Israeli government is full of racist and extremist and fascist Israeli settlers. So since that, the Ibrahim Mosque massacre, they closed the Shohada Street, they closed the markets, they sieged the mosque area, they divided the mosque. Then 1997, we had a redeployment agreement, peace agreement between Netanyahu government and the Palestinian Authority. They divided the city for H1, Hebron 1, under the Palestinian security control, and H2 under the Israeli military control. And they were talking about 2 years till we have the two-state solution, and Hebron will be part of Palestine, and the settlers will be taken out of Hebron, the Israeli fanatic settlers. Unfortunately, the second intifada started because the Israeli government refused to give up land and to give Palestinian authority. They wanted them authority without an authority, and this is the reality now, that the Palestinian Authority is without any kind of authority. They are subcontractor of the Israeli occupation now. After the second intifada, the Israeli military revoked the agreements, and they implemented what suits them. They closed the shops, they closed the markets, they closed the streets, they closed neighborhoods in the city center of Hebron. And by time they take over houses and houses and houses, and they add, now they are building 31 new units. During the war, they are building 31 new units in the city center, which means they will increase the settlers' presence in the Hebron around 25%. It means they will create facts in the ground to divide the city more. We will have more violence, more checkpoints, more army, because of the presence of the 31 new units, which will be added to the old units which we had before October 7th.
So effectively, that ethnic cleansing is being engineered in the West Bank, in Hebron and other locations. This is actually a policy of ethnic cleansing. That's what it sounds like, Issa, when you describe it. Would you say it's safe to say that's the case?
It's absolutely the case. They don't evict you directly from your house physically. They don't come and take you out from your house, but they make it impossible for you to stay and remain. How they make it impossible for you to stay and remain? Security. You don't feel safe in your house. You don't feel safe about your family, your kids, your friends, your neighbors, because of the settler violence and because of the army violence, because of the continuous intimidation, army raid, and settlers. They attack you. They attack your property. They steal your belonging. Then no social life. How there is no social? It's the area is closed. Checkpoints, so no visitors, no parties, you can't stay late, so you have no social life in your community. And we know that that we are without social life, we can't survive in Palestine, as it's part of our culture and part of our daily life. No services, craftspersons, plumber, electrician, any kind of maintenance, it's impossible to do it. Doctors, engineers, they need a special permit to come in to the area. Municipality services need to be coordinated by the Israeli army. So no services, no social life, and no security. So people leave their homes, unfortunately. And this is why we have around 40% of the houses unit inside H2 in Hebron are empty from the Palestinians. So then settlers moved in to these empty houses, and they try to steal. Each year they steal a house or two, and they get in, and they just start, bringing more settlers to the city.
Also, I want you to comment on the reprisals. We've had reports of, and we've also had people on this program for social media posts. They have been harassed, in some cases arrested by the Israeli military in the West Bank for saying something on Facebook, for instance, or saying something in the media. You've been very brave and outspoken, especially on X, Twitter, and some of these social media platforms. You're showing videos of what's happening on the ground. You're documenting a lot of things, talking to people, spreading the information about the true state of affairs in the West Bank. What is this atmosphere like? Can you corroborate some of these reports? We've even had some people who've been intimidated as well for speaking to the media. What can you tell us about this free speech environment in the occupied West Bank? Go ahead, Issa.
We don't have anything free in the West Bank. We are occupied, restricted, intimidated, and our voices are shut off. The Israeli military for 2 months prevented media to come to my house. They didn't allow BBC to come to my house. They didn't allow CNN Digital to come and report from my house and understand how we live as Palestinians. So our voices are shut off. And it's almost impossible to speak because the Israeli military may arrest you, soldiers may beat you up. I was detained many times, arrested, ill-treated because of my voice, because of my peaceful voice, because I'm saying we want to make peace with the Israelis. We want to end occupation by a peaceful political solution. And we live together and we recognize each other. But they don't want that. They want Israel to be from the river to the sea without the Palestinians. They don't want to listen to Palestinians. They don't want Palestinian voices to reach to the British audience, to the Jewish the diaspora, Jewish communities. Because they don't want us to reach to these communities and communicate them and talk to them about peace. So they don't want Palestinian voices. They don't want us to document the human rights violations. And anybody writes on Facebook and social media, anywhere, talk to international media, will be blacklisted, which means that you will be stopped, detained at any checkpoint. And now there are checkpoints everywhere in the West Bank. You don't get work permit. You will be, really in a bad situation, or will be arrested. I have our spokesperson, my organization, Friends of Hebron and Youth Against Settlement, is in jail now because of speaking in solidarity with Gaza in a peaceful way. Many other Palestinian journalists in West Bank are in jail now. In Hebron itself, around 20 journalists are in jail. In Gaza, more than 100 journalists being killed since October 7th, journalists. So they are targeting journalists in Gaza, they're targeting journalists and activists, and they don't want the Palestinian voices to reach out. They want to be the only voice in the region.
Yeah, because what we keep hearing time and time again, Issa, especially in the U.S. Media, Western media, Britain, in Europe, that Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East, and therefore that's why the United States must support the state of Israel, because they're preserving democratic values in the Middle East among all these non-democratic authoritarian Arab countries. That's the basic idea that you read in American media and European media. How would you respond to somebody who's describing that narrative, Issa?
Israel is the only apartheid state in the Middle East. As a Palestinian, I live settlers live next to my house. The Israeli settlers are under the Israeli civilian law with full political rights, civilian rights, human rights. Me, Issa, I am under the Israeli military law. I am guilty until I'm proven innocent. So by law, I'm guilty until I prove that I'm innocent. Non-violence resistance, according to the Israeli military law, is not allowed. And I was arrested many times for my non-violence activities. And the settlers are living with quality life on the expense of our basic human rights. So when you have two sets of law in the same area for different people, it's apartheid. So how democracy? I didn't vote to choose Netanyahu, who's controlling me. who's rolling me, who's controlling import, export, water, electricity for me. So you can say that Israel is a democracy only for the Jews. Even inside 48 inside Israel, the Palestinian communities, they don't have equal rights with their Jewish neighbors, and there is the nation state law distinguish Jews from others in Israel, unfortunately. And Israel is occupying another country, and if Israel is occupying us, it means it's apartheid and occupation. But this is how we define Israel. We don't define it as democracy, and we, the Palestinians, we had democracy, and the international community refused our democracy result. And if you want to talk about democracy, there is democracy in Iran, there is democracy in Turkey. Why they don't talk about them too, And the Arab countries, they do fake election and they say democracy. The same, it's in Israel. And these countries, they are allies of the West. They are, the Arab community, the Arab, leaders, they are very close friends of the Europeans and the British government, administration, and the American administration.
And also, got a couple of minutes left, Issa. Thank you for that comment, too. I think it's important that people hear an alternative explanation to something that they read every day in the Western mainstream press. But last week, South Africa, the country of South Africa, came to the International Courts of Justice in The Hague and made a presentation on behalf of the Palestinian people against Israel, condemning Israel for charges of genocide in Gaza. I want to get your reaction of this. How is this being received among Palestinians? And I know you're in touch with people all around the world because of your activism. Just tell us how has this affected things in a positive way? What's been the reaction? How do you feel about this?
We, the Palestinians and our supporters all over the world, they believe in the international law. And we believe that the international law must be implemented on everybody. So we want Israel to be accountable according to the international law. So the international treaties, the international institutions, the UN must make us and Israel accountable. Unfortunately, for a very long time, the Western countries, Britain, Europe, and the United States were not allowing Israel to be accountable by the international law and the international courts. And Israel felt that it's beyond the law, and there were double standards. We also how the international community and the UN, and it's great, and I'm supporting that, reacted to Russia raid of Ukraine. I'm against Russian occupying Ukraine, but we are the same. We are occupied by the Israelis, and Putin was announced as war criminal, and they summoned him to the International Criminal Court. This must be the case of Netanyahu and the majority of the Israeli leaders who are now committing genocide, and they're announcing it in the media. It's not something you need to search. They are announcing. Their soldiers are videotaping themselves and distributing it on social media and TikTok and all over the world. The genocide is there is no need to investigate. It's proven by Israeli leaders talking about it, saying it, and Israeli soldiers implementing it on the ground in Gaza. And the results, how many people are starving. We don't want to talk about the people who are killed. We're talking about the people who are starving, who don't have enough food to survive. In the northern part of Gaza, thousands of people running after trucks of food to eat, and the soldier killed three of them yesterday. So people are starving. They don't have clean water to drink. There is no gas, no fuel, no medical aid because of Israel. Because Israel closed all the borders and they don't allow any kind of food to get into Gaza. For us, we believe in nonviolence resistance. We believe in the international law, and we believe that the international, criminal court will make them accountable, and the ICJ will make Israel accountable. And to be very honest, it was great. We had more hope. We were very optimistic about the results, and thanks to South Africa. And we hope all the countries in the world make all of us, everybody, any offender in the world accountable on those and the courts, the highest courts in the world, because this is how we can prove who's right and who's wrong.
No, and it's I think the effects have been far-reaching. I think they'll probably continue to be far-reaching because the process is just going to continue. It will move to the United Nations Forum as well. So I think a lot of people are happy to see, at least for once, that the Palestinian issue could be explained in detail to a global audience on a major institutional platform. Total focus that people have listening to the presentation, not interfered with through political attacks and so forth in a way that only South Africa could do at this time in history. And they've done it. I think this is a great step forward. I hope, and we all hope, Issa, that this will lead to more positive outcomes politically and will give other countries the courage to look at this issue in this situation for what it truly is and not looking at it through the lens of propaganda, which has been a big problem, I think, for Palestinians in how how the situation has been portrayed in the global media for a very long time. We just have a minute left. I want to give you the stage, Issa, for your final comments for our audience before we break at the top of the hour. Go ahead, Issa Amro.
I want to thank you and to thank all the people who are protesting for Palestine, for justice, for freedom, for the civilians in Gaza and in West Bank. And I will tell everybody who's really contributing to the Palestinian cause, without you, we can't continue. Without you, we will be really removed from our land. We promise you that we will not give up. We will stay strong, calling for peace and justice and equality for everybody. But we need your voice, we need your actions, and we need your solidarity. And thank you very much. And I hope that one day we all meet in a free Palestine and a better future for everybody in this region.
Thank you very much. Issa Amro, a Palestinian human rights activist based in Hebron in the West Bank occupied territories, joining us on TNT Today's News Talk today. Really appreciate your reporting, Issa. Take care. Good luck. And our prayers, of course, and we hope for your safety as well going forward. Thank you so much for joining us. There he goes, ladies and gentlemen, Issa Amro, Palestinian activist. Look, folks, that was a pretty informative segment, I would say, and we're going to do our best to get more takes from on the ground. These are voices that are not getting platformed in the mainstream media. Issa explained why, because literally the Israeli government's preventing even BBC or CNN from coming to his home to film interviews with him in the West Bank about these issues. So while he's being silenced by the Israeli government, not given access to the Western media, we've done our best to try to break through that firewall, to break through that force field and get the facts from on the ground in a place like the occupied territories. Thank you to our producers behind the scenes for helping to arrange that. Everybody on our team, tremendous. And I think it was worth it just to hear his unfiltered opinion and take on what's happening on the ground in Palestine. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, and especially thank you to Sam Husseini, American journalist from Washington, D.C., and Basil Valentine, our intrepid correspondent this week, joining us as well. And to you, our listeners, to you, our audience, thank you for tuning in to TNT. We have a big show tomorrow. It's going to be some big reveals. You don't want to miss it. Same time, same place. I'm Patrick Henningsen, your host. This is TNT, Today's News Talk. See you guys next time.